got this feeling nowadays that all my dreams are much too far away. Sometimes the nights got me aching, working hours in the cold. And I can't imagine how it feels to end up where you feel you had to go.
We're going bankrupt because of all the things we're paying for out of pocket that other countries pay for with taxes. Because here's how the system works. The basic tax proposition is simple. You pay taxes to the government in the form of the money. The government pools that money and uses it to provide the people with essential goods and services that they need. That would be efficient, but there's one catch. We can't do it that way because getting anything directly from the government or through cost-controlled industries would be considered socialism. There's a big discussion of whether the thunderclap should come after socialism or before socialism. And I thought, let's try it before, because I'm an old man and I don't know where I am.
Welcome to WYCD Wicked, that stands for What You Can Do. How you doing? It's a Thursday. I'm happy to be here. Tomorrow, taking another whack at being on the True North Eager Beaver podcast. So if you are up at 7 a.m. Eastern, or let me just check my notes here, 4 a.m. over in California, Nevada area. Hello there, Wicked. Foxy Dragon. Check it out. But we are going to be streaming that. I'm looking forward to it. I love hanging out with the True North fellas, Paul and Doug. Man, I'll tell you. Lots of examples today of why the Republicans are basically just a bunch of criminals. I just can't get out of my head how this time in the world is going to be looked at by future generations. I want to write a whole book, but I don't have the patience. But if I did write the book, it would be called If We Make It, Predictions About What Our Grandchildren Will Say of Us. Like, it's going to be so hard to explain how we were aware of the fact that the earth was cooking and we were the ones leaving the oven on. And we knew what was happening, but enough of us were simply convinced to let it keep going. We knew that we had a class of ultra-rich with their fingers in pies that they did not belong, but we let it happen. It's amazing. It's depressing. But if there is any good news, it's that the news has been nearly this bad for a long time. And a lot of what we are seeing now is just the shock, the absolute shock that decent, regular folks feel when they learn what is going on. Even all this crazy MAGA stuff, it was just, there was a more polite version of getting the same things done that Republicans ran for a very long time. This is just who they are. We're just seeing it. Woof. Let's say hello to the Wicked audience. I like it. Hey, Unfriendly Atheist, thank you very much with the very kind $5 super chat. Hello, humans, he says. Hello to you as well. Oh, anti-corporatist, yes, indeed. Be careful out there. Wireless Mike says Jon Stewart is the GOAT. Good to see you. Good to see all of you. Anti-corporatist says, anybody else getting choppy video and audio? Oof. I think I'm good. According to, well, now my my stream health has gone down a little bit, and it's back. Hopefully it should be okay. We'll see. We'll power through regardless. Well, I very much, whoopsie daisy, not that. I very much, there we go. Very much want to get into this next segment. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Gonna get it started with just a crime. Just a crime. A literal crime committed by Marjorie Taylor Green. And the question is, will the U.S. government do anything about it? Whether or not Marjorie Taylor Green violated the law is not up for debate. She did, and she did in front of cameras. If we are going to raise the bar, it's going to involve us insisting upon different behavior. Now, I know you might think that means insisting upon different behavior from Marjorie Taylor Green. Well, no. She's already shown us who she is. Marjorie Taylor Green is the sort of person who would show images of somebody at probably the lowest point in their life, having sex with a prostitute. Actually, that's a hell of an all right low. But still, when rich people are low, having sex with a prostitute, and she showed those images without his consent, that's called revenge porn, folks. She's the kind of person that would do that. So when we demand a change of behavior, it's got to be from the people that are supposed to enforce the laws. So that when she does something like this, she has an expectation that there will be consequences. Let's look at what I'm talking about specifically. Article from Salon here. Been covered elsewhere, but Salon gives a pretty good overview. Let's pull this up. Zero proof, but apparently some pics. MTG showing Hunter Biden nudes at hearing backfires. This is from Tatiana Tadinpoli. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee hammered Representative Marjorie Taylor Green, a Republican from Georgia, for displaying sexually explicit images of President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, during a hearing on Wednesday, citing it as evidence that Republicans have no evidence in their widely hyped Biden probe. Green showed the graphic poster boards during her questioning of two Internal Revenue Service whistleblowers involved in an investigation into Hunter Biden's taxes, who testified before the committee Wednesday. While the faces of the other people in the images were covered with black boxes, what appeared to be the younger Biden's face was left on display. I would like to let the committee and everyone watching at home know that parental discretion is advised, Green warned before questioning IRS Special Agents Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler. Here's the thing. Right there, she just acknowledged that she was about to show images to the committee and everyone watching at home. To all of America, she was going to show these images. They were of Hunter Biden having sex. Why does that matter? Well, gosh. How about because the man has a right to privacy? How about because in this ridiculous song and dance that MAGA's doing, which is just a collection of conspiracy theory nonsense, in this, to make her ridiculous point, to generate headlines, which, hey, congratulations, she did. She showed nude pictures of somebody, and she thought that would help her. I'm not particularly sympathetic to a guy with a bunch of inherited wealth and a bunch of inherited power, but he's a human being. I'm debating whether or not it would be appropriate to show you even the edited pictures. I'm going to opt not to. But we need to get a hold of ourselves. We just need to. Let's look at this purely from the perspective of cold hard facts. So, could Green have made her case without showing Hunter Biden engaged in a sexual act to the whole nation? Could she have done that? Yes, she could say, we have pulled pictures off of whatever that shows him engaged in what I think is sex with a prostitute. I don't know or care what relevance she thinks that has. Hunter Biden is not in the government. He's simply the family of somebody who is. Setting aside whether or not she has a strong case, the question is, of course, could she have made that case without doing this crime? Yes, she could have. So she chose then maliciously to show these pictures. Have a quick look at the criminal code for this. Let me pull up. There we are. She was in DC at the time, so the code for the District of Columbia is 22-3054, second degree unlawful publication. It shall be unlawful. Oh, what the hell? Let's jump over to our screen. You don't have to take my word for this. Switching over real quick. Here it is. It shall be unlawful in the District of Columbia for a person to knowingly publish one or more sexual images of another identified or identifiable person obtained from a third party or other source when the person depicted did not consent to the disclosure of or publication of the sexual image. All right, that standard's met so far. And the person published the sexual image with conscious disregard that the sexual image was obtained as a result of a previous disclosure or publication of the sexual image made with an intent to harm the person depicted or to receive financial gain. Second is met. Marjorie Taylor Green published the sexual image with conscious disregard that the sexual image was obtained as a result of a previous disclosure or publication of the sexual image made with intent to harm the person depicted or to receive financial gain. In other words, she knew where these came from, and she had absolutely no excuse for doing this. A person who violates the section shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, and upon conviction shall be fined not more than the amount set forth in yada yada yada, imprisoned for not more than 180 days or both. The amount is $1,000. So, this is a relatively, it's a misdemeanor. It's a relatively light sentence. It's 180 days in jail or $1,000. We could be angry about the fact that it's so light and that she probably deserves harsher treatment, but I choose to view it this way. If it's such a light sentence that she stands to get, why is the government so hesitant to apply it, for God's sake? It's a slap on the wrist, but she earned it. And we need to acknowledge what she's done there. She's harassing a private citizen. She's showing his sexual business to the whole nation. I now know what the very base of Hunter Biden's schwanz looks like. I don't want to know that. Congratulations to the man, but still, I don't want to know that. The fact that we just let conservatives get away with this nonsense because they are conservatives, that needs to end forever. They need to be held to the same laws as the rest of us. I'm actually okay with how harshly left-leaning politicians are treated. I'm okay with that. I like that, as a matter of fact. I think it keeps us honest. If a left-leaning politician did anything resembling this, they'd be kicked off all of their committees immediately. They might be expelled altogether. Good. This behavior is wildly unacceptable. We need to hold right-leaning politicians to the same standard. Link is in the description for the U.S. Attorney. I don't know or care if it's their job specifically in that area. The U.S. Attorney for the D.C. area. I don't know if it's their job specifically to enforce D.C. criminal code. I don't know. Why would I apply that link then? Because we need to bother these people generally. I suspect they will put the pressure where necessary. But the whole culture of law enforcement in the United States is just geared towards letting conservatives get away with whatever they want. We need to end that. Write the U.S. Attorney. Make it that asshole's problem. Tell him you want Marjorie Taylor Green to have her wrist slapped. And by the way, if she gets away with saying, I was doing my part as a politician, you can't get me in trouble for being a politician. Okay, then I would like a progressive to walk up to Marjorie Taylor Green during the next session of the House of Representatives and rip her wallet out of her hands, spread the contents all over her desk. If she gets in your way, just shove her away. Send her flying. Take whatever money you can find, whatever bribe money she had with her on that day. Take that. Take that money. And with the rest of her stuff, just scatter it. But you're acting as a politician, so you can't be charged with breaking the law if you're making a political point. That's the precedent we're setting, so let's insist that it be used. We already have, you know what? We have an insufferable see you next Tuesday in the House of Representatives already. We have a loathsome individual already there who is low enough to do this kind of thing. Let's take advantage of it. Let's have Lauren Boebert, who despises Marjorie Taylor Green. Let's have her steal her wallet, forcibly take Marjorie Taylor Green's wallet. If Marjorie Taylor Green isn't punished for showing revenge porn. Because apparently laws don't apply if you're acting as a politician. Let's turn that on its head. However, I'd much rather we just apply the laws. So write the U.S. Attorney for D.C. Write him. Say that you have an expectation that this will be settled in a courtroom. And if the U.S. Attorney says that they are not confident they can get the case published, great. Then I want to see the contents of Marjorie Taylor Green's wallet scattered around the House floor by someone with the courage to actually show us what this system is, to show us the hypocrisy that we're living under. Han Solo, hello. The anti-corporatists, members of Congress can't be impeded from attending a session for a misdemeanor. Either it's got to be a felony. Yeah. They have the option of 180 days or a fine, so give her the fine. That's open and shut to me. You have the option. It's right there in the law, so give her one. Or give her the 180 days to be served during her vacation days. If this was you or me committing this crime, they'd find a way. They'd find a way to toss us in prison, in jail. Actually, it's just 180 days. They'd work it out. Insist that they do the same for Marjorie Taylor Green. It's that simple. Surreal edifice. People who serve the donor/owner class are above the law. It is really that simple. Your scenario belabors the hypocrisy. Yes, and that is what we should do. Just shine a light on that, on how asinine it is. And if Marjorie Taylor Green is allowed to get away with this crime, then I insist our representatives openly, in front of the cameras, just like she did, commit other crimes that make Marjorie Taylor Greene's day worse. I had to see Hunter Biden naked because she's a goddamn clown. So I would like to see that turned on its head. Anti-corporatists bringing up the speech and debate clause, saying probably Bigfoot's that. That is exactly why I want a member of Congress to go steal her wallet, rip it out of her hands in front of her, and scatter it everywhere. Speech and debate, I'm making a point. Speech and debate. Take a hostage. Break into her home, take her dog, bring it in, put a bunch of road flares on the kennel that you brought in the dog with. I mean, she's a horrible human being. I doubt she has a dog, but assume she does. Put a bunch of road flares, say it's dynamite, and threaten to blow up the dog unless she does 1,000 jumping jacks in an hour. It's just speech and debate. Did it in Congress. It's speech and debate. Not a crime. Speech and debate, folks. I want that kind of pressure put on these people until we decide we're going to go back to acting like civilized human beings. Because you're right. That is exactly what they're going to say. They're going to say speech and debate. I was just making a point, and I would very much like us to address that, because enough, in my opinion, is enough. Oh, I hit copy when I should have hit paste. But don't worry. I wanted to get the one I was sour about out of the way. But it's out of the way now. Oh, we got a Bluetooth keyboard, folks. There we go. All right. Y'all know I love me some BTC. Let's have a look at one of the more inspiring videos I've seen in recent days. I'm trying to set down the fire. I can't. Oh, let's see if it goes away now. Got that venom. Ugh. I love Brian Tyler Cohen as a palate cleanser. If after the last segment, I feel like, gotta get loose, gotta shake it off, gotta find the humor again. And you know what? Brian Tyler Cohen's great for that. This man has brought to my attention a development that I did not fully appreciate until he gave his assessment. And things are looking good for 2024 for a number of reasons. The gross stuff that we just talked about is going to keep turning off sane voters. But Jesus, there's also just legal victories winding up on the progressive side left and right, at least when it comes down to drawing districts. Let's check that out.
We've got a major update out of Georgia. So here's the deal. 3 cases have been working their way through the courts in Georgia challenging both the state legislative maps and the congressional maps, where the plaintiffs are alleging that the maps violate the Voting Rights Act. The maps were drawn and passed by the Republican legislature last cycle, and they were approved by a judge, but only because the midterms in 2022 were fast approaching. But now, the plaintiffs in this case are looking for new permanent maps ahead of the 2024 election. And because of the surprise Supreme Court decision in Allen versus Milligan, which upheld that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is constitutional and prevented the dilution of minority voices in redistricting, suddenly these cases in Georgia have new life. Now, as for today's news...
Before we dive into that, just a quick recap. It was known that this particular district map would not hold up in court, and the plan from Republicans was always just to get one election with those ridiculous maps. That's why they released them when they did. Worth taking a note. Look, I'm not saying that we should disregard the rules, but we should be maliciously compliant with the rules, as I suggested in the last segment. Because these people have no respect for the way things are supposed to work. This is the kind of tactics they use all the time. So while this is good news he's telling you about, just understand it was anticipated by Republicans. Oh, God. In addition, it's worth noting that the Supreme Court that we currently have has a habit of sort of giving up on some of the, well, all right, not the obvious cases. They pick and choose what they're going to piss us off with. And this was one of those things that they decided to toss to us, the sane people, right before they did some heinous shit. So that is the context of this decision. But that's all the bad out of the way, because the rest is good. Here it is.
Republicans in the state tried to have the case dismissed, which would leave the current illegal maps in place in Georgia. The judge, Steve Jones, who's an Obama appointee, has refused to dismiss the case and will allow all 3 lawsuits to proceed to trial together on September 5th. Here's Mark Elias during our most recent episode of our YouTube-only voting rights series, Democracy Watch, explaining exactly this.
Yeah, so there's actually been some recent good news in Georgia, and so I'm glad you asked. The trial court there rejected the state's motion for summary judgment, which is basically a way to short circuit the case, and set it for trial. So that case is going to trial on September 5th of this year. So, there's been a lot of concern in all of these states, including in Georgia, that the cases won't move fast enough that Republicans will be able to stall this out. That case is going to go to trial on September 5th in the state of Georgia. And I predict we're going to have a favorable ruling in that by the end of September, in plenty of time for there to be new maps for the 2024 election.
How many seats may be at play in Georgia?
So Georgia, like Alabama, involves one additional black majority district in the Atlanta region is the Georgia case.
Now, importantly, this development in Georgia comes on the heels of 2 other major developments in the redistricting space. Because of the Allen versus Milligan case, Alabama was ordered to draw a second majority black district. The Alabama legislature actually opted to defy the Supreme Court's order by moving to submit maps that aren't majority black, and I discussed with Mark what will happen if they don't ultimately comply with the court's ruling. It looks like Republicans are defying the Supreme Court's directive here. So, first of all, can you explain what these Alabama Republicans are doing?
They're breaking the law. I mean, you just kind of said it, right? They're defying.
Real quick, why are they breaking the law? They really want the Supreme Court, not the Supreme Court, they want the U.S. court system to say multiple times, you must make a majority black district. They want to make it seem like it is the opposite of what it is. They want to make it seem like the system is being unfairly weighed in the favor of black folks, when in reality, this is the court trying to get them to knock off their blatant gerrymandering. But all right, let's listen to the expert.
Defying the court's order. They were ordered by a 3-judge panel, which included 2 judges appointed by Donald Trump, to draw a new map because the map they drew was illegal. They were like, no, you don't understand. You're wrong. This needs to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court agreed it was illegal. And so this was their chance to fix the illegality, to draw a new map, which has 2 majority Black districts. And instead of doing that, they have been engaged in what can really be described as cynical political theater. That's what they're doing. It's cynical political theater of drawing a new map that does not comply with the court's order, and they can't do it, and they're not going to get away with it.
Okay, so I might be betraying my naivety here, but the legislature did pass those 2 different maps, neither one of which comport with the directive from both the federal court and the U.S. Supreme Court. How can they do this?
They can't. I mean, this is the thing. What they're doing, they're not allowed to do. But here's the escape hatch, and this is, I think, gets a little bit, Brian, to the politics of.
Wait a minute. Let's talk about Brian Tyler Cohen asked a great question. Mark Elias, you know what? I haven't let him fully answer yet, but it seems to me like he's going in a rather nebulous direction. Let me just throw this in. The question was, how can they do this? The answer is there is no enforcement of the laws when Republicans break them. That's the answer. The people who enforce our laws are largely conservative. By the way, if you know somebody who's looking for a career change, I'm talking about local sheriff's department, I'm talking about FBI. If they are looking for a career change, tell them to go there. If they are currently working at a mechanic shop, say, go take 1 summer of classes and become a cop. Enough of this ACAB stuff from the left. That's not productive. I would rather the cops be decent people. Granted. Oh, God. Granted, that's not the only issue. There's not plenty. There are a few lefties in law enforcement. There's a few lefties in the DOJ. But the habit of these institutions is long established, and they simply can't imagine what it would look like to show up to a congressperson's house or one of your state representatives. They don't know what it would even look like to show up to their house and arrest them. If you say, what would it look like if you arrested a small-time drug dealer or a big-time drug dealer, they'd have an answer for you. If you said, what are the procedures for arresting somebody who works in politics? There's no procedures for that. We don't do that. They break the law plenty. Are you sure? Are you sure? They just violated the law right there, blatantly. Told by the Supreme Court what they had to do, and they chose not to do it. They chose to defy the court. So what do? If it's in the United States and it's a powerful person, you do nothing. That's the answer. So, hopefully, what Mark Elias is going to tell us is that now what the U.S. Department of Justice is trying to work out is how they are going to punish these people for violating the law, and that punishment will involve them having a criminal record. Hopefully that's what he's going to say, but I suspect instead what he's going to say is that some version of this, a strongly worded letter. They're going to be told that they really, really have to obey the law. And if they don't, well, somebody will be called in to do their job for them, with their approval, of course.
What I think they're doing is they're not going to get thrown in jail for not drawing a proper, right? It's just what's going to happen is the maps they draw just will be disregarded and the court will draw its own map.
Okay.
So what they're doing, I think, and why I call it cynical political theater is.
So what they're doing is defying the court, and yep, somebody will be called in to do their own job, to do their job, the job we paid them to do. Nope, now another government employee is going to have to do it. Because they couldn't follow the law. And because we refuse to enforce it. Now you might be saying, there is no enforcement mechanism written into the law. Well, if it were a different kind of crime, I have a feeling, just a crazy suspicion, that we would have found a way. We would have found an existing law that does allow us to arrest them. That would have resulted in arrest, and then a trial, and then some manner of punishment. But all right, maybe it would have been that no arrest was necessary. They're not dangerous criminals. At the very least, an indictment, and then some manner of punishment. He's saying, however, it's a cynical political move. Okay, how is it a cynical political move? Is it that, sort of like I said at the beginning, they really want it to be shown as the court? The court doing these things? I bet it is.
They want to be able to say to their voters, we were forced by the court into doing something, and then we did the thing that we did to sort of not effectuate the court's order because we were standing up for you. Right. We're standing up for Republicans. And knowing full well that the end of the way this ends is that the court disregards what the legislature is doing and just draws its own map. And then they get to say, you see, it was the runaway judiciary. It wasn't us. So I think that's what they're doing.
All of which is to say, Alabama Republicans will certainly stall. They'll certainly refuse the court's directives here. But at the end of the day, Alabama will have a second majority black district.
Boom.
In Louisiana, also thanks to the Milligan case, that state will draw a second minority majority district. And while we've heard rumblings from Republicans about not complying with the court's ruling, the same principle will apply as the one in Alabama. Louisiana, too, will have a second majority black district in time for the 2024 election.
Boom. So why is this good news? Even though I'm bitching about it, like oh god, like as someone who complains a lot, I really don't. I don't have anything in the chamber for that one. But nosy school marm. Why is it good news? Because despite the kicking and screaming done by the GOP, and despite the fact that we refuse to enforce the law when these people break it, at the end of the day, they are going to be, in both states mentioned, Louisiana and Alabama, they're going to be less likely to get reelected, these folks. Now, yes, we're still going to have tons of red representation from there. But in at least, 2 additional districts, no longer. I have a feeling that the black folks in those districts know exactly who these people are. I have a feeling that the folks in those districts that wouldn't have existed if the Republicans got their way, they're not going to take too kindly to that. So, it is good news. And remember that the cure for most of these woes is just a solid blue victory in 2024. It's that followed by our pressure on the Democrat majority. The busiest years of some of our lives are going to be next year and the 2 following. Next year because that's election season, and the 2 following because if we are successful in election season, if we get the prescription that the country needs filled, it's then going to be our job to make sure we take our medicine and we get genuine left policy pushed and implemented so that people can see, well, son of a gun, this works. As it has been, it's demonstrated to work at the state level, and those few times we've actually gotten left policy to be implemented at the federal level, it's been things that are treasured. I'm talking Social Security. I'm talking Medicaid. I'm talking highways. Really things that are considered fundamental now. Things that even Republicans know that you're not supposed to touch, or at least you got to lie about it when you're trying to get rid of them. Going to be a busy couple of years, but busy in a fun way, because instead of just being enduring, instead of just being not getting wiped out by these punks, we're going to be doing the wiping out. And we don't address it like they do. We're not talking about wiping them out physically like they would do with every trans person if they could get away with it. No. We're going to destroy utterly their political careers by just being better at the job, as it should be.
And finally, that brings us to Texas. One last time, here's Mark Elias explaining the slightly different situation in that state.
Yeah, so Texas is a more complicated case because it involves more seats, it involves more parts of the state, and it involves seats that both involve, or violations of the Voting Rights Act that both involve denying Latino voters their opportunity to elect their candidate's choice, and Black voters their opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. So in Texas, you're looking at someplace between 4 and 6 seats that should be added as majority-minority districts. The majority of those would be majority Latino districts, both along the border, but also in other parts of the state. And then in Harris County, in addition to additional Latino districts, you would have 1 or more additional Black districts. That case is moving at a slower pace. But again, I expect the federal courts know when they're being played. And even if a federal judge isn't going to vote your way, they understand that election cases have to move in time for the elections. So win, lose, or draw, I really do expect that these judges are going to expedite these cases so that there are rulings in time for the 2024 election.
And of course, it's worth noting that the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act cases aren't the only news in the redistricting space. There's also the recent news that New York will be redrawing its congressional maps. Ahead of the 2022 midterm cycle, New York adopted temporary maps from a Republican-leaning map maker. That midterm cycle netted Republicans 4 additional seats in the House. Of course, now, the Democratic legislature will have the opportunity to draw its own maps, and estimates suggest that we could be looking at between 4 and 6 new seats for Democrats in 2024.
Boom.
And given the fact that Republicans' majority in the House is currently only 5 seats, this would clearly be a major boon for Democrats' prospects to take the gavel away from Kevin McCarthy. With that said, I want to make one caveat. This is not a guarantee that Democrats will win the House.
True. Took the words right out my mouth. I was talking with Foxy earlier. It's still going to be work. I think we're going to win. I'm optimistic about that. I think we're going to get a knockout, but we still got to show up to the fight. We still got to train beforehand. We still got to be in tip-top condition to that note. To that end, I should say. There's a link in the description for the DSA. That's the Democratic Socialists of America. I would recommend you sign up for your local chapter. The link is to find your local chapter. I'd recommend you volunteer. Why the DSA? Because they are a reliably left-leaning organization. They put progressive candidates in office. Even if they are more not Democratic, even if they are more left than you generally are, I would still recommend volunteering for them. Because the goal right now is to get rid of Republicans. The Republican Party is a criminal organization. You're not going to beat them as easily with centrists. We've learned that time and time again. As neoliberal policy is collapsing, all America and the European countries that adhered to it in the late 80s, early 90s, their center is collapsing, and it's getting replaced by far-right extremists. The way it's generally going is that The center generally starts voting for just decent, life-preserving measures, and more, the far right in various countries start voting for different names for genocide. The way to combat it is not to double down on centrism, it's to go left and let people decide which they'd prefer. Do you want to prefer being annoying in how much we help everybody, or do you prefer, genocide? DSA, you can volunteer for them if you would rather take more of a direct role. If you would rather be in charge of an operation, then check out yesterday's episode on starting your own political campaign. You don't even have to be the face if you want. Think of it like a team. Start your own local politics team. Pick whatever position you think would suit you best in a campaign. This includes things like campaign manager, finance director. It's plenty to pick from, and then build the rest of that team. But the point is, get involved in this upcoming election. Great news from Brian Tyler Cohen. Looks like we've got the odds more in our favor now. On top of the 4 additional seats we're likely to pick up, we also have the performance of the members of the House in recent years. From the jump, from getting McCarthy appointed as Speaker of the House, it has been an embarrassment. I don't think they've won over independents. So let's double and triple down on this. The bigger we win by, the larger the margin of victory, the less problems we have to deal with, the easier the rest of our lives become. If you're looking at just this next 2 to 3 years, then the second half of that becomes much easier based on how hard we work and how successful we are in the first half. Give it some thought. And certainly consider signing up for your local chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. Anti-corporatist. Oh, let's check this out. Holy guacamole. I'm driving through Utah, and I just saw a billboard for a country event being held at the America First Event Center. Jesus Christ. Really, really depressing. Wicked Foxy Dragon, much appreciated. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up. Yes, please do. The anti-corporatist, you could conceivably reverse the gerrymander there. The court won't do it, but it could be done. Interesting. I'd be curious to see how that would work. Unfriendly atheist, exactly. Exactly like a something. Fair enough. Surreal edifice. The law is captured by market forces. Did you ever look up that scene from Network, Jake? I actually think so, but now in the moment I'm choking and I don't remember it. Give me a little taste of what it was, and I'll we'll look at it right here together. Dino, I guess I'm the only one concerned with a third-party disaster. Somewhat. You know what? Let's talk about that. Speaking of, you've brought up a good point. Talk about third-party nonsense, or at least spoiler candidates. Here we are. Well, we're talking about spoiler candidates, or as in a slightly different direction. Dino saying, I guess I'm the only one concerned with a third-party disaster. Now, I wouldn't hate. Oh, I dropped the link for it above. It's an excellent scene. Wicked Foxy Dragon, if you see that, link. Could you drop it in our chat, and I'll try to pull it from there. No worries if you can't find it. But if you're talking about the equivalent of an unknown coming in during the wrestling match and smacking the presumed winner with a chair, then I give you, holy God. Actually, what I give you is apparently a bright, oh, here we go. Twitter isn't working so great these days, folks. Oh, boy. Anyway, hopefully that loads. Here is what Robert Kennedy Jr. recently said. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi. So I just wanted to bring this up.